I'm Cheryl Carmona. You may have, if you were here earlier, saw me talk about soil. And now I'm going to change my hat and talk about Boone Street Farm. And this is Sandra Coles. She's the president of the community association in our neighborhood. And I feel really bad that I don't have all the photos of the events that happened in the past, but this is actually an image of what the farm currently looks like. So it's the spring shot with some garlic up in the center there. So I'll just start and go over kind of the history and where we started over the last year. So Boone Street Farm is located on Boone Street between 21st and 22nd. It's really close to Greenmount Avenue, or close to the intersection of Greenmount and North Avenue. So we started making plans for the farm in the fall of 2010, but we actually broke ground about a year ago, and the lot is about an eighth of an acre. What you're looking at right here. If you can count that lot and the lot across the street, it's about a quarter acre. And in the first year, we expanded onto about a quarter or half of this eighth of an acre lot. So it's a pretty small scale. But in the first year, we grew about 1,000 pounds of produce, and we also started a community garden, which is across the street. So we gained 10 community gardeners who are residents from the neighborhood who are participating in the community garden. And in the first year, we, with the 1,000 pounds of produce that we collected, we made both value-added products and we sold fresh produce at events such as, one-off events such as Artscape or Hamden Fest. And we also would have, we did do a weekly market in the middle of this summer when we had the most produce. So my co-gardener, or co-farmer, Eliza Solins, has been working with me on this project from the beginning. And she and I would walk around the neighborhood with the produce that we had, and we would just walk around the perimeter of the lot. So we walked around down 21st Street and up Homewood Ave and across 22nd Street, and that would take about 2 hours because we were talking with neighbors, and we didn't have a huge amount of sales during our neighborhood market, but we really got to meet the neighbors and got to know the kids in the neighborhood. And so I would say in our first year, I think our biggest accomplishments and our the greatest impact we had that I was least expecting was the involvement of the youth in the neighborhood. We've had pretty much youth working with us that live in the blocks around the lot from the day one. So they've seen us from when this was completely vacant and just starting to grow produce. They've been there with us every step of the way till today, where they are definitely significant members of this project, and anytime people come to visit the site and stop by to say hi, they're there, they introduce themselves as participants of the project, and they take a lot of ownership over the project. So I think that's been one of the strongest assets, I think, for us in building this farm, is having the youth participation, and we're learning from them as much as they are learning from us, I think. So do you want to talk about how, so I'm going to let Sandra kind of talk about a little bit how the community association has been involved in the development of the farm. So from the first day, from the first steps of the project, we were going to the community association meetings. So we made all of the announcements about our interest in building a farm at the community association meetings, and we built a list of interested community gardeners from the community association meetings, and from neighbors who would walk by. Any events and activities that we had going on, we always made announcements at the meetings. So this was one of the major ways that we could connect with the community and let people know what's going on. So that was, if you want to maybe talk.
Okay. Yes. Coming to the community association was really one of the greatest steps, because that's where a lot of interaction with residents and leaders come at the community association. I remember looking at these 2 lots, and in the neighborhood there's so many vacant, properties, so many vacant lots, and I would say, oh Lord, what are we going to do with those lots? It's just so huge. The lawnmowers and the weed whackers we have just not going to be able to handle this kind of stuff. So when I met Cheryl and Elijah and I seen them out there in the garden, I was like, he answered my prayer. So I was really excited, when Cheryl and Elijah talked about they were going to do a garden. I was excited because I grew up in the Eastern Shore, Wharton, Maryland, and I come from a really large family, and the finance was real low, but we had pigs and chickens, and we had apple trees and peaches, and even though there was many times we went without food, but in one sense we didn't, because we had so many gardens and apples, and we had all that healthy stuff, So living here in Baltimore City, I felt like the kids just missed out a lot. There's such a big struggle in the city. I see so many children come from, low-income families, and I see so much children with no food. I see a lot of that. But then when I think about the gardens being grown, then I think about my life growing up. I'm like, well, they're going to get some food, so I don't have to worry about it. They're going to get some food, and the kids are really participating, which is really great. I look at it as it's like an education tool for the kids in the city. They're getting educated, they're getting exposed, they're getting some food. There's been some employment. It's been a small, but all the things that's needed right now in the city has happened at that garden. So it's been truly a godsend having that garden there. So I just look forward to get bigger and better, and anything that the community can do to help it grow, we're going to be there to support to help it.
Yeah, and I think that kind of leads to, so this has been our first year, and in the first year there was a lot of energy and effort had to go just into turning the ground over from a grassland into production oriented farming, and we had the assistance of the youth in the neighborhood. We had the support of our neighbors who we met. I think the first time I met the neighbors actually was when before we started the project, I with one other person who was initially involved and backed out because she realized she was really interested in farming, and she realized that this was going to be a community building project, not just a farming project. And that's when Eliza came on and started working with me. But we started by just walking around the neighborhood and going door to door and just asking people, there is this vacant lot that's behind your house, and how do you feel about having a garden, a community garden, and a farm behind your house? Like, what, just generally, how do you feel about it? So we didn't get anyone opposing the idea. We had people who had some concerns about rats, and I did talk to them about the things that we were going to do to try to make sure we didn't have a lot of rats in our compost pile. I think generally that's where the rats are usually attracted to. They're not as attracted to the fresh produce. So I did talk to people about that. But we had no one saying no. So we felt like Eliza at that point was a resident in the neighborhood, and I had friends who lived in the neighborhood, and I was really excited about living near this space where we were going to be working on a project building a farm. And I I can just back up and say that I was coming out of the master's program at that point, where I had studied environmental soil science and had studied a lot about agriculture and understood how agriculture worked on a larger scale. But living in a city, I was really interested in seeing how could this potentially work in a city where we have all this vacant land and we have food deserts that exist. Why can't we just do this right here? So that was my initial interest and impetus to try to do this project, to work on this project. And so I've actually moved into the neighborhood now and live 2 blocks away from the garden. And so the people who live around the garden and people who live around me are all neighbors and know me as someone who is involved in this project. And so it's been a really great experience just getting to know my neighbors, because I really know so many more neighbors living in this neighborhood than I have in any other neighborhood in Baltimore. So that's been a really great experience. And I think going forward this year, one of the initiatives that really has going to be tying us together with Greater Greenwood Community Association is the Clean Community Competition. We have had a lot of issues around trash in the neighborhood, where people aren't putting their trash in trash cans, and the bags rip open, and eventually the trash is kind of blowing around and blowing into the garden, and there aren't a lot of people recycling. And so these are both things that the city is trying to work on with the Clean Community Competition. And so the Greater Greenwood Community Association is going to be participating in the Clean Community, some of the initiatives.
Right. Yeah, the community is really excited about entering the Mayor's Clean Community Competition. One of the greatest things is that there's a $5,000. And as you all know, we could use that. But, even so, as I announced last night at the meeting, even though we may not get it, but one of the greatest things of it is just cleaning the community. Just seeing a clean and green neighborhood, just watching people finally coming together, working together, to clean up a neighborhood that we got to live in. There's a lot of vacancies, but if you clean it up, and even though the vacancy is there, it's going to look a whole lot different. It's going to make you feel a whole lot different. It's going to make folks want to come in to help, because they're going to see the step that we're taking. They're going to want to come in to help us. So we're really excited, and it's so good to have Cheryl. Saturday we're going to be starting on Boone Street. So the next Saturday, the children, everybody's going to go there at the garden, and that's where we're going to start our second cleanup. So we're looking forward. We got until from April to October. So, and we have a lot of lots. So this is the second garden we get ready to get started on. Cool. So yeah, we're looking forward.
So
yeah, Tyler will facilitate.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.